Hello guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. My name is Abiola, and in today's video we'll be taking the sewing tutorial of the pattern we drafted 2 days ago. We'll be making this lovely jumpsuit. Okay, I'll be showing you the step-by-step process in joining everything to achieve this fit. Okay, and in this tutorial you will learn how to pad a monostrap bustier, because this is padded and you would not require a bra to put on this outfit. You will also learn how to make this sleeve. I think it is called the gigot sleeve. Yes, you will learn how to make that as well. In our last video, we're able to draft out the monostrap bustier. We're also able to cut out the trouser part of this jumpsuit. So guys, if you want to understand what's going on in here, you have to go back to that video. I'll have it linked in the description box below so that you follow everything we are doing, okay, so that you're not lost. So let's go to today's video. Guys, here is what we drafted in the last video, and I told you guys in that video that I added half an inch seam allowance after cutting it out using the pattern. Adding half an inch on the shoulder is very important so that your bust falls into place, because if you take that allowance and you don't add it, your bust isn't going to fall where it should fall, and that's going to cause some fitting problems on the outfit. So guys, I added half at the back. This is the back pattern. I added half inch on the shoulder as well, and half inch at the zipper allowance area. I like to add this half an inch at the zipper allowance area so that when I turn it with the lining, I still have my exact zip allowance. I hope that makes sense. Another thing I would like you guys to know is the fact that I'm going to use an interfacing called e.t.c in the Nigerian market. I'm going to use my iron to gum this onto the fabric. This is going to make it more firm and just make it feel more quality. Yeah, and for the lining piece, I'm going to be using the paper type interfacing on the lining piece. You can use e.t.c or both, but for the sake of how do I describe it now, to reduce costs, I'm going to use the paper stay for the lining, and it works fine as well. So I've gone ahead to gum the e.t.c on the fabric and the paper stay on the lining. Okay, so it's time to pad our monostrap bustier. In padding the bustier, I am going to go back to my pattern paper. I'm doing this so that the beginners can understand. I could just go ahead and pad it, but we're going to use this method so that everyone watching can understand. So I'm going to divide her nipple measurement by 4. 8.25 divided by 4 is about 1.1. So from the bust point, I'll mark 4.1, and I'm going to mark that 4.1 round. Whatever we are doing now is what we're going to use to cut out our foam, so just makes it very easy for beginners. So I'll go ahead, mark that 4.1 round, then go ahead to connect that to form the bust, curve. Okay, after which I'll go ahead and match that to the middle part, the center front part, and I will try to get a straight line whilst trying to make sure that I have like an inch allowance left that I will use to turn my lining. Okay, because we don't want the bra foam or the foam to interfere with our lining whilst turning the upper part. So I'll try my possible best to have at least an inch allowance at the top part whilst trying to connect that to the other end. Okay, I hope that makes sense. At the other end, I'm going to also try to get an inch allowance up there while still trying to mark my 4.1 inch, that I marked earlier. Like I said, the 4.1 inch was gotten by dividing the nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So I'll go ahead and connect that like this. As you can see, this is already like set, so we know what we are cutting on our foam. Okay, we're cutting it just as it is. We're not adding any allowance to what we are cutting. We're cutting it the same way it is. Okay, so guys, I'll go ahead and cut that sharp on the foam, okay, or on the padding. I don't know why the names of these things are leaving my head as I'm making this voice over. Like I said earlier, there's no need to add any allowance. Just cut what you have on the paper straight up. Just cut, add no allowance. After that, I'm going to go ahead to my ironing table to gum this on the fabric. There's this shiny part that gums when you place it on the fabric and you use your iron to touch it. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm trying to place them where they should be. I decided to go back and sellotape my patterns back so that I can be able to mark where the bust point is, the under bust, like I mean notch it, so that when I'm sewing them together I would be able to get the exact points. I hope that makes sense. So after stitching that, I'll go in with my chalk to just mark. At the end of the day, I think I still used my scissors to notch it. So you either use your marker to mark or notch, but I think notching is better. No, I don't think, I know notching is better because you'll be able to see where you notched on both sides. The marker might not show at the other end, so it's better to just notch. Okay, like I said earlier, I still went ahead to notch all the parts after ironing the foam to my fabric. I went ahead to notch all the parts so that when I'm sewing, everything can align, you know, so that both sides can align, the bust point will align while sewing the curve, the under bust to align, everything will just align. So I did all of that. Then I took that to my sewing machine and I stitched them together. I stitched them together using 1/2 inch seam allowance because that was the allowance that I added. Before stitching, I tried to just make things easy for myself by marking out the 1/2 inch seam allowance so that when I go to my sewing machine, I'll just stitch it down. Okay, same thing with the lining piece. Yeah, I marked out the 1/2 inch seam allowance as well. Remember I told you I used paper stay on the lining, and this is what you can see. Here's what I have when I was done stitching. I'll go ahead now and notch all the edges, okay, so that it gets very flat when I iron it. And I'm going to go ahead and make use of my tailor's ham to iron that bust part so that it doesn't come out flat, so that it comes out curved. Okay, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now, notching and ironing. Okay, that's what we're going to do next. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead now and open the seams, then iron. I added water so that it just makes it flatter. When I was done opening the seams and ironing, I went ahead to get rid of the excess allowance. After getting rid of the excess allowance, I went ahead to notch, like I said earlier. Yeah, I notched so that everything comes out flat. You have to be very careful with this step so that you do not notch to the part where you to your seam. Okay, you have to notch, you know, do not touch your seam. That's just basically it. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the lining with the fabric. I'm going to place them right sides facing each other, and I'm going to stitch it down using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to stitch the sides as well using 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I will stitch the other side as well. For the back part, I've gone ahead to mark out my 1/2 inch seam allowance on each side that I should mark it normally. So I'll go ahead and join the fabric piece separately, then join the lining piece separately. I'm going to leave the zip allowance area for now. I'm just going to join the, you know, the area that is not the zipper allowance area. After joining the lining piece as well, I'll go ahead now to, you know, turn the zipper allowance area as well as the side seam area. Okay, here's what I mean. Now I've already marked out my 1/2 inch allowance, so I'll join the zipper allowance area and the side seam area using 0.5 inch seam allowance. Also, I'll turn the neckline as well using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Just follow it the way you see it so that it comes out the way it should come out. Okay, here's what I have when I was done turning the front part. As you can see, I used 1/2 inch seam allowance to join that part. So now it's time to attach the rope, because there's a rope that we're attaching. This person wants a rope that she can tie at the other sleeve, so I've gone ahead to cut out something. It's about 3 inches wide, but on fold is about 1.5 inch. and it's about 14.5 inches long. Yeah, about 14.5 inches long. So that's what we're going to be making use of. I'm going to go ahead to form the strap right now. Yeah, after stitching and flipping the strap to the right side, I'm going to attach one of the strap to the front piece and one of the strap to the back piece. Okay, so here is the back piece. I'm going to go ahead now. I'm done stitching all the places that needs to be stitched using 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'll go ahead and bring the strap right now and insert the strap to the other end that the strap is supposed to be at. I'm going to place the strap until it aligns towards the edge. I'm trying for it to align properly towards the edge, and I'll use my pins to hold it down before I go to my sewing machine to stitch it down. Okay, then I'm going to place the same. Look at, I've placed the one for the front, and here is what it looks like. Yeah, that's why I pushed it towards the edge, because I don't want any space at the upper part. Okay, that of the back part is already fixed as well. The strap for the back part is already fixed as well. So yeah, let's go to the next stage. The next stage is the trouser part. We're going to work on the trouser part, and now it's time to place our dart. This is one place beginners find very hard. If you're placing your dart on your trouser part, you need to add 0.5 inch to your dart, or the allowance you added. I mean the allowance you're supposed to use to join the two crotch area. Mine is 0.5 inch, so I'm going to mark 4.6 inches as the dart. Then I'll take 0.5 inch on both sides. I hope that makes sense. If you do it this way, it's going to be very easy for the trouser part to match with the upper part. I mean the darts. The darts needs to match, because most times when darts are not matching, your clothes is looking like, yes, I made this. I don't know if you get, it's not looking professional. It's not looking like, oh, someone that is good made this. Like, that's not aligning is a big no for me. So you have to add that 0.5 inches so that your darts align. So after doing that, the length of my dart is 5 inches. The length of my dart leg is 5 inches, and I'll take 0.5 inch on both sides and connect that to that 5 inch point. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'll go ahead now and do this for all the trouser parts. They are 8 in number, 4 lining and 4 fabric piece. So I'll do the same thing for all of them. And remember, your back dart is not straight. Okay, your back dart is never supposed to be straight. If you make it straight, you're going to have fitting problems. You're supposed to take your dart from your zipper allowance. Okay, and you're supposed to add 0.5 inch as well, so you're marking 4.6 inches like you did in front. This is to ensure that everything, the darts align. Okay, so take 1/2 inch on both sides and connect that to the 5 inch point. The length of the dart is 5 inch. I'll head over to my sewing machine and take in my darts right now. After taking in your darts, you have the option of turning your fabric with the lining if you added allowance that you would be able to use to turn your fabric with your lining. But for me, I just stitched down the lining on the fabric. Then I'm going to weave it when I'm done. You could decide to turn it, but for me, I'm going through the easy route. I'm just going to stitch down my lining to the fabric, and I've already done that already. I stitched down the lining to the fabric, and the two places that are left open is the waist area and the hem area. All the sides are already joined together. Like, I just made them become one. It's like they are now one. Okay, so now we'll go ahead to stitch down the front crotch area using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here is the front crotch, the one I'm touching. Then the one beside is the back crotch. So I'll go ahead now to mark out my 0.5 inch allowance that I want to use to join the two front crotch area. Okay, so after joining the two front crotch area on my sewing machine, I will then attach it to the upper bodice. It's now easier to attach and match. Then for the back, before I join the crotch area, I'm going to attach the back piece first. This will make it easier to join our zipper allowance and everything. Here's the back part, guys. First off, I attached the upper bodice to the lower bodice, then I took in the zipper allowance, which is 2 inches. Yeah, so everything matches. For the why I said everything matched is the fact that the crotch area, if you remember, we added 1.5 inch zipper allowance, but if you remember, we still have 0.5 inch allowance that we're supposed to use to join the trouser normally. So that implies that we are using 2 inches to join our crotch area, which matches with our 2-inch allowance on the zipper allowance. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is just it. So guys, I'm going to show you the front part now. At this point, you can go ahead to attach your zip. I didn't attach mine now, I attached it later at the end. Here is the front part. I've joined the upper bodice to the lower bodice. The next step is to join the shoulders and also join the side seam. Take the person's exact measurements and join the side seam. Before I join the shoulders, I am going to mark out my measurements. I'll first of all push out the bust area before I take my measurements. That's very critical in you getting your exact measurements. Push out the bust area, and I'll go in with my measuring tape. I will divide the person's measurement by 2, and I'm going to mark them as I go ahead. Okay, so I'll go ahead and divide the bust by 2 and mark what I have there. Okay, divide the bust by 2, mark what I have, divide the waist by 2 and mark what I have as well. For the trouser, there was no need to mark because I knew that I added 0.5 inch allowance. I just joined the trouser part using 0.5 inch allowance. So guys, I've joined the front, the back part, the shoulder. Here is what I have, guys. Our jumpsuit is coming together. Now it's time to cut the sleeve that we're going to attach to the other area. In cutting the sleeve, the first thing I'm going to do is to trim off this edge. Okay, I'm going to tell you how I folded my fabric very soon. I folded my fabric using 13.5 inches, because I wanted to pleat the sleeve. The next step is to calculate the cap height. Her cap height is calculated by dividing her bust by 10 plus 1.2 inches. Her bust divided by 10 plus 1.2 inches is 5.1, but I decided to use 5 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark out that 5 inches right now, and I'll connect that into a straight line. This sleeve is as big as this because I want to pleat it, and I'll go ahead and form a straight line from that edge to the other end at this area. So I'll just go ahead now and try my possible best to get a straight line from that edge to the other end. The straight line I have there, I'm going to mark what I have there, like measure what I have there. I have 14 inches, and I'm going to divide that by 3 and mark each point. Like divided by 3, what do I have? I'll mark the first point, mark the second point. Okay, so I have 14 divided by 3 is 4.7 inches. So I'll go ahead now and mark 4.7. That's the first part. I'll mark 4.7 again as the second part. So this is divided into 3 parts. Then on that edge, I'll come out by 0.8 inches. I'm just forming a sleeve curve. Okay, 0.8 inches. From that point, I'll come out by 0.8 inches. Okay, then I'll go ahead and divide this last part by 2. 4.7 divided by 2 is about 2.3 something. So I'm going to just mark that at that point. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and come out from that edge by 0.2 inches. That's what I marked, 0.2 inches. And now it's time for us to go ahead and connect this to form our armhole curve or our sleeve curve or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I'll go ahead with my curved ruler now and connect all the points. The length of the sleeve that I'm working with is 27 inches, but guys, you know that it's a gigot sleeve, so we have the upper part and we have the cuff area. So for the proper length of the sleeve, I'll be using 24 inches, but 24 plus half-inch seam allowance that we used to join the lower parts. I marked 24.5 inches. Then I will later cut the cuff part. So after marking that 24.5 inches, I will make that into a straight line and use my scissors to cut that out. For the cuff part, I'll also add 0.5 inch allowance, because 27 minus 24 is 3 inches plus 0.5 inch allowance. I'll measure out 3.5 inch. It's going to be cut on fold. Like the 3.5 inch you're measuring is going to be on fold, like I'm folding it right now. So I'll go ahead with my tape rule to measure that, and I got with 3.5 inches in width. Now I'm going to get the length. The length is 10 inches, but on fold it is 5 inches. Now I'm cutting it on fold, so I'm going to measure 5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to pleat the main sleeve on the cuff parts. When I'm done cutting it out, I'll go ahead to pleat that on top of it. Then I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch it down before attaching the sleeve finally on the jumpsuit. Just, you know, pleat as you like. Any method of pleating you want to use, just use it at this point. Okay, so once I'm done pleating it, I'm going to go ahead now and attach that to the jumpsuit proper. Okay, and I'm going to pleat it on the armhole as well, because I cut out the sleeve in a way that it is bigger than the armhole, so I'm going to go ahead and pleat that as well. First off, loosen a little bit of the side seam where you want to attach the sleeve, then take the midpoint of that sleeve, which is what I'm doing. Then I will start attaching from that midpoint and from the mid armhole like this. I'll just pleat it until I get to the end, then go to the other side, pleat until I get to the end. And that's basically how you attach your sleeve. Now I'm going to go ahead to take the length of this jumpsuit as well as iron it properly. Okay, so I'm just going to measure the trouser part to take the length, and if you remember, the trouser part is supposed to be 47 inches. I've folded in the edge. I've already folded in the edge that I want to, you know, hem. When I go to my sewing machine, I folded that down, so I'll use my iron to get a crease so that when I get to my sewing machine I can hem it down. And here's what I have when I was done doing all of that. If you enjoyed watching this video, why not hit the thumbs up button, and you know, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to see you in my next video, guys. Bye.